Howdy, and welcome back to Celebrating Vintage Model Kits. Today we're going to be looking at something a little different. This is a 1957 Palmer Plastics 75 millimeter World War I artillery piece. This is kit number 33-100, and it was in 1/24 scale. So this is the first time looking at Palmer, and Palmer is kind of a smaller producer of kits in the 50s through about 1970 or so. They were from Brooklyn, New York. They were mainly a plastic toy maker. They made a lot of simple small toys for like dime stores and things. They also made plastic army men and whatnot. They started producing kits in 1957. They're mainly known for cars. They did a lot of model cars, a little bit of this artillery stuff, guns, some animals, and that's about it. Their cars weren't the best. They lacked detail. The car bodies were in the three-piece construction, so you had the roof and the hood and the trunk lid, and then you had sides that would be glued together. As they were still using the old style molding pieces, or molding tool. They didn't have the side slide molds available to them, so that kind of impeded what they were able to do as far as quality and detail were concerned. So they were kind of just kind of like this afterthought company as far as model, real serious modelers were concerned. They were mainly marketing more towards the lower end price point, and being sold mainly towards kids, not so much towards modelers. This is a bit of an exception to that. This is actually a fairly nicely made kit. So they were capable of making something really nice when they wanted to. But the Pyro ended up being purchased. I'm sorry, Palmer ended up being purchased by Pyro about 1970. They may have been keeping the Palmer name around for a little while after that. ScaleMate shows them as still producing up to about 1975. So there may have been a little bit of overlap on that. But Pyro ended up with their molds after purchasing them. So I'm also going to include a link to Max's models. He's got a video on the history of Palmer/Pyro. So you can take a look at that if you are looking for some more information on them. But the French 75 itself, the French 75 is considered to be the first modern artillery piece. It was adopted in March of 1898. It was the official name of it was Matériel de 75 millimeter Modèle 1897. It was designed mainly as an anti-personnel cannon, firing shrapnel shells against advancing infantry. It was quick firing. They could fire high volume of shrapnel shells. During World War I, they introduced a contact fuse shell as the trench warfare had kind of changed, how things were going. And it was considered, as I mentioned before, the first modern artillery piece, mainly because it had the hydropneumatic mechanism for recoil. So whereas artillery pieces before, when they fire, the thing would roll backwards and they have to be resighted. This gun could be fixed into place, and when the cannon would fire, it would recoil in place, and you didn't have to keep re-aiming it. So that, combined with full shells, one-piece shells, allowed this to be able to fire at a much higher rate than previous artillery. So they were able to get 15 rounds per minute on average. In emergency or real dire need, they could get up to 30 rounds per minute on it. The French had, at the start of World War I, approximately 4,000 of these. By the end of the war, they had produced a total of 12,000 of the 75 millimeter guns. The American Expeditionary Force, when they arrived in France, didn't have any artillery with them, so they were given 75s from the French. All told, they had about 2,000 of them assigned to the AEF. The United States started producing the 75 millimeter guns here in the United States, but only just a handful of them got shipped overseas by the time the war ended. 75, stayed in service for quite a while. It was used in a lot of different applications than originally intended. So you ended up having anti-aircraft versions of it, anti-armor versions, anti-tank versions as well. The same basic gun and shell were used in U.S. tanks. The M2 and M3 tank gun on the Sherman and the Lee Grant was derivative of this. The Char B had a version of this in the nose of it as well. This also became the basis for the Pack howitzer, a little shorter overall round. The shell was the same, but the round was a little bit smaller to make the Pack howitzer, which was used by the U.S. Army and Marines during World War II, by the paratroopers as well. So quite a pivotal piece of artillery. So that's a little bit about the kit, or about the gun. Let's talk about the kit here. So you got quite a bit of stuff going on here for this Palmer kit. You've got a fairly nice piece of artwork on here. Not the bestest rendition of a soldier here, especially with an upside down shield on his 1st Division patch here. But you got easy to build plastic model kit scaled from U.S. Army photos. 75 millimeter World War I artillery piece, brass plated. So there's going to be brass plated parts in here. Operating front shield, sight, and wheels. Complete with metallized parts and fittings, easy to follow instructions, and you got your Palmer information here. Box was designed by M. Poland Associates. On the side, we've got additional kits from the series: a Gatling gun, naval 24-pounder, Civil War field piece, and a Revolutionary War. This side's got the same information. End has got a repeat of the top box art, the kit number 33100. So this was a $1 kit in 1957. Same thing on this side. Nothing on the bottom. So this is a hard box with a lithograph that's been folded and glued over. Got a little bit of damage to it, but for a fairly rare kit, that's not terribly bad. Got a full-size sheet of instructions here. A little hard to see in the video, but let's start with this half here. So, no information about the gun itself. Just going right into it. But what is nice about this, unlike a lot of the kits at the time, this is going by individual little step-by-step, kind of like what a modern kit does now, instead of just this big exploded view. So, assembling your shield, got hinging on here, how to remove your parts off the tree so that you don't have damage and stuff. Again, continuing these individual steps for just each individual part. I think this is probably a lot more of a complicated kit than most kids would be able to assemble looking at it. You get your barrel, associated parts with that. And your final assembly, putting the barrel on the cradle, and an example of what you can do with it to display it. So pretty thorough instruction sheet. Not the most flashy, but gets the job done, that's for sure. So here's what they're calling brass plated. Maybe hard to see in the video, but this is got a yellowish color to it. So this is good for some of the hinges, a few of the little fittings and stuff. Have a nice touch. But even in person, it's looking pretty silver chrome as opposed to more of a brass yellow. It's just got like a tinge of that yellowish color. Yeah, you can see these trees are big and thick and huge. So it's not the most delicate looking kit, but you know, it is fairly detailed. This is all the gun barrel parts, associated pieces with that. Here's our front shield. So some detail to that, a little bit. And here's our wheels. Wood with steel rims. They're parts of the mount. It does have a little bit of wood grain in the inside there. Got some unfortunate placement of ejector pins though on some of these spokes, but not too terribly bad. And last few pieces, looks like the top part there. Yeah, there we go. Some rivet detail. A couple of little pieces that may have come off there. A little bit heavy flash on some of it. So you can see, yeah, the molding's a little bit simplified. It's not the finest of molding, but it's a little something different. You know, if you're a kid and you got $1 in your pocket, this would be an interesting choice, you know. Do I get yet another, you know, F-86 or Mustang, or, you know, do I get a French 75? So it looks like kind of a decent little kit. I'm sure at the time there really wasn't anything else quite like this available, unless you're going to be, you know, carving it out of wood or something along those lines. So this is the original 57 issue. Palmer did do a revised one in 63 with new art, kind of a overall red looking box. Lifelike did one issue in 74, and then also Lifelike did another one under the Hales brand, which I believe was a department store specific branding. And then that was it, except for in the 90s, Encore Models did a pop of this. I believe Encore was part of Squadron Signal, or were specifically set up to make some kits for Squadron Signal. And that's it. So this is a relatively rare kit. You know, not a high demand kit, but you know, if you're into this kind of stuff, you know, this looks like a pretty fun little build here. If you want something a little different, you know, this is definitely a good kit for that. Well, that's about it for this one. If you've built one of these, you know, tell us about it in the comments section. If you got one sitting on your shelf, absolutely take a picture. We'd like to see what this looks like all built up. Send that in. And other than that, thanks for watching, and have yourself a great rest of your day.